At this moment, as you and I are recording this, 395 days, 14 hours, 1 minute, and 11 seconds left. So I have a real sense of urgency.
Ohio Governor Mike DeWine heading into his final year in office after 5 decades of public service.
I'm trying to finish strong.
In a one-on-one interview, we talk about his low approval numbers and his relationship with other members of the Republican Party.
People disagree, but the things that really matter, the future of our children.
Plus his thoughts on the sex abuse scandal at The Ohio State University that could come to an end in his final year in office, and how he feels about the 2 candidates running to take his place.
From your local election headquarters, this is Sunday Briefing with Colleen Marshall.
He is a self-described Reagan Republican in public office for nearly 50 years, serving as the 70th governor of Ohio. Mike DeWine is heading into his final year of public service and still laying out plans to shape the future of the state. Welcome to Sunday Briefing. I'm Colleen Marshall. On the local, state, and federal level, Mike DeWine's entire adult life has been in public service. After 5 decades in elected office, he is heading into the home stretch. DeWine is term limited out of the governor's office and has 1 year left in term 2. I sat down with the governor at his State House office to talk about his relationship with his party, the GOP grip on the State House, and what's on tap for 2026. And it is clear the governor is reminded every day that the clock is ticking.
This is kind of my attitude as I go into the last year. So this is a countdown clock. And you can see how many at this moment, as you and I are recording this, 395 days, 14 hours, 1 minute, and 11 seconds left. So I have a real sense of urgency. Jeb Bush gave me this. I think he gave it to all governors who go into their final term. And it says, basically finish strong. So I'm trying to finish strong.
Mike DeWine knows he is heading toward the finish line after 5 decades of public service. He started as an assistant Greene County prosecutor soon after graduating from law school back in the early 70s. He was elected county prosecutor, and his political career took off. Within 1 year, he was elected to the Ohio Senate, then went to Capitol Hill, serving in the U.S. House of Representatives. He was George Voinovich's lieutenant governor and then headed back to Washington to serve in the United States Senate. He was Ohio Attorney General and now a 2-term governor of Ohio. On January 5th, the governor will celebrate his 79th birthday and head into his final year in office. In his most recent political matchup, he defeated Democratic nominee Nan Whaley in the 2022 gubernatorial election. In a landslide, voters returned DeWine to office as he topped a Republican ticket that swept every statewide race. So the results of the most recent Emerson poll that asked Ohio voters whether they approved or disapproved of the job DeWine is doing were stunning. There's a new Emerson poll out that questioned voters on a number of issues. One of them was favorability for you and for President Trump. Your favorability numbers were low at 25%. You have had pushback from your own party in this Republican-led legislature. Every office holder in the state is led by Republicans. You won by 25 points in the most recent election. Why is it, do you think, that there's this separation between you and the leaders in the State House and Republicans around the state?
I don't know that there really is that separation. In getting your policies done, the most important thing is the budget, because that's where the money is, and that's how you determine public policy. If you go back and look at my budgets, now I've had 4 budgets. Each one of those budgets, I've gotten 98, 99% of what I wanted. Maybe not everything, but we've made historic investments in mental health. For the first time, if you have a family member, a child a teenager who has a mental health problem, you can pick up the phone, call 988, and within 1 hour there'll be somebody sitting there who understands mental health to deal with that family crisis. That had never been done before. The science of reading, where we really focus on kids. All these things that we have done in regard to children, the legislature, I couldn't have done them unless the legislature would have said yes, and they said yes through the budget. So I know that it's interesting to talk about where the legislature and I, and the leaders of the legislature and I may disagree. People disagree, but the things that really matter, the future of our children, for example, kids only have one chance to grow up, and so we got to get it right. In those areas, they back me, and I'm very, very happy about that.
Throughout his career, DeWine says his mantra has been to serve and protect Ohio children.
The things that we have started, that I want to make sure that we continue to push forward. The science of reading, for example, we need to continue to push forward on that. We need to make sure our universities, when they're teaching teachers how to teach reading, that they follow the science of reading. Another example, we're starting a new program just in a few days, and that is to get eyeglasses to kids and eye exams to kids who are not getting them. The law in Ohio provides that every kid in grade school has to be, quote, screened, but of those kids that red flag is, hey, you need to get an eye exam, only a third of them actually get the eye exam. So that's kind of my attitude as I go forward.
What are the qualities you want to see in the next governor?
I think the most important quality for any public official is to be a good listener. You have to listen. There's always people out there who know more than you do about a particular issue. You have to understand the problems that exist. You have to travel the state and hear from people. That's, to me, the most important quality, is a good listener, someone who takes in that information, and then they ultimately make their own decision, and they make the decision which they think is best. But I think pulling all that information is pretty important.
How do you qualify or characterize Vivek Ramaswamy? We will be back with the governor's answer to that question, and we will be talking about his former health director, Democrat Amy Acton, who helped him guide Ohio through the COVID pandemic. We'll have DeWine's candid reaction to his party labeling her Lockdown Amy. Mike DeWine is term limited out of office, so we know Ohio will have a new governor 1 year from now. His former health director, Democrat Amy Acton, will be facing Republican billionaire and businessman Vivek Ramaswamy. The Democrat Party does not endorse until after the primary, but Republicans endorse Ramaswamy 18 months out from the general election. Governor DeWine says he always backs Republicans, but he has not yet endorsed Vivek Ramaswamy. I talked to him about both of the candidates who want to move into the governor's mansion when he moves out. How do you qualify or characterize Vivek Ramaswamy?
Look, I'm not going to get into that at this point. I'm just getting to know him better. As I've said, and this to me is important, I've sat down with him now 3 times. And we've just talked, and we talked about issues, and we talked about Ohio and what makes Ohio unique as a state, what makes Ohio great as a state. Those have been good conversations, but that is a continuing process. And I'm trying to learn exactly where he is. I hope I can help him understand, some of the issues. Nobody, unless they've sat in this office, where I have been now for 7 years, can fully understand the gravity of the decisions that are made or all the things you have to take into consideration. So I'm trying to help him understand those things just as I would help anybody. And I think those have been good conversations, and they're going to continue. We will continue to have these conversations. I've said already, I will support the Republican. I'm a Republican. I'm a conservative Republican. I will support the Republican nominee for governor. But I'm continuing to get to know him, and we've had good conversations, and I've been happy with the conversation.
DeWine's leadership got national attention and praise during the COVID pandemic. He and his then health director, Dr. Amy Acton, gave daily televised updates on the spread of the virus and the state's efforts to flatten the curve. In the earliest days of the pandemic, DeWine's decision to cancel the Arnold Classic in Columbus was among the first major COVID-related cancellations in the country, and it established Ohio as a national leader in the fight against the coronavirus. But now that Acton is the presumed Democrat nominee, Republicans are blasting and blaming her for Ohio's lockdown. They're labeling her lockdown, Amy, at the time you two were getting praise around the country for leading the way on fighting COVID. How do you assess her and her chances?
Well, first of all, the decisions that were made during COVID, they were my decisions. So no one should blame someone else if they don't like it. The buck stops with me. I had sought a lot of advice. I got advice from her. I got advice from people around the country. So, I was trying to get as much information as I could about something that we did not know much about, and I made decisions based upon that. But they were my decisions. They were not her decisions.
But what do you think of Amy Acton as a potential gubernatorial candidate?
Well, I've said I'm going to endorse the Republican nominee. It would appear that Vivek Ramaswamy is going to be the nominee. I've not endorsed him yet. He and I actually have been sitting down a couple different times. We're going to do it more to talk about issues that frankly I care a lot about, and just kind of get to know him a little bit better and get to know, what his positions are on these issues.
There was certainly an appearance earlier this year when the party pushed through the endorsement of Ramaswamy, and you were the sitting governor, and you said, let's put the brakes on this, let's wait. Is that because you were hoping to see Jim Tressel in this position?
No, I just felt that it was very early at that point to make a decision, for the party to make a decision. But I didn't win on that, and the majority decided on that central committee, the people on that 50-some people on that central committee, the majority decided to endorse him, and I understand that.
You personally, though, would Tressel have been your choice?
Well, that's speculation. I can just tell you Jim Tressel is a great person. He's a great human being. For those viewers who have watched him throughout the years when he was coach and then 9 years as president of Youngstown State, I can just tell you, if you don't personally know him, what you see is what you get with Jim Tressel. This is an amazing leader.
There were a lot of people who, on the county level especially, county Republicans that I was speaking with back then, who said they wanted Tressel. They fear some of the ideas coming from Vivek Ramaswamy, and they fear funding cuts to counties and local governments if he would become governor. Did you hear from them? Were they pressuring you to maybe push for Jim Tressel?
No, they weren't. But I think, when you understand how government really works in Ohio, and I suppose other states, but I just know Ohio, what happens at the local level is where the services are delivered. One of the things I'm proud of is we've now more than doubled the amount of money going to local children's services in Ohio, because I know from my experience as a prosecutor that this is so vitally important. Lives are literally at stake. So I think part of understanding Ohio is knowing, yes, the state's important, but really where the services get delivered is locally, and what the state has to be is helpful. And again, that's just part of the process of understanding Ohio.
Still to come, the governor's thoughts on the sex abuse scandal at Ohio State University and the legacy of his administration. Hundreds of survivors of sexual predator Dr. Richard Strauss are hoping 2026 brings an end to their legal battle in federal court, where they are suing Ohio State University for failing to protect them. It's a fight that started in the first year of the first term of Governor Mike DeWine. But will it end in the final year of his final term? In May of 2019, Governor Mike DeWine himself announced the shocking findings of an independent investigation into claims from former students, especially student athletes, that they were sexually abused by a university team doctor. The Perkins-Coie report revealed the abuse had gone on for 20 years under the guise of medical exams, with university coaches, doctors, trainers, and administrators aware of it, but turning a blind eye.
We should all be disgusted and should be angered by what has happened. Only by the horrific and vile acts perpetrated by Richard Strauss, but also they should be angered that complaints and reports about this sexual abuse were not reported to higher authorities by the athletic department or Ohio State University's Student Health Center until 1996, more than 15 years after the first reports were in fact received.
The university fell back on the statute of limitations, claiming the victims had simply waited too long. After all, the abuse by Strauss apparently started as early as 1978. The governor, so concerned about the fight for justice for the survivors, called upon state lawmakers to change the statute of limitations as it applies to victims of sexual assault.
The law should be different in regard to the statute of limitations for sexual assaults than it is for other crimes. And so, yes, I understand that there has been some opposition in the General Assembly about this, but I would just ask the members of the General Assembly, what would you tell your constituents today? Or what will you tell your constituents tomorrow if we come upon another tragedy like this and he's alive, but we look around and say, no, that was 27 years ago or 30 years ago, and we can't prosecute him.
But 6 years after calling on lawmakers to eliminate the time constraints in the statute of limitations for victims of sexual assault, lawmakers have taken no action. Legislation to fully address the changes has repeatedly been introduced, but failed to win support. In the Strauss case, a federal judge threw out the statute of limitations defense for OSU because the university actively hid evidence and protected the sexual predator. Still, OSU continues to fight the survivors.
We now know coaches knew, administrators knew, at the highest levels of the university, people knew about what this man had done. Do you have any influence, or are you trying to get the university to maybe come to the end of the road here?
Well, I think everybody would like to see us get to the end of the road. We also have to be understanding that for the victims, there is no end of the road. That we can't take what happened away, but we obviously need to be compassionate, and we need to compensate them. Beyond that, I've not got involved in the intricacies of that, but it's a horrible, horrible tragedy. And transparency is very important here, and to know exactly who did what.
Attorneys for the Strauss survivors and Ohio State University are now in the midst of court-ordered mediation, and depositions have been taken of former OSU leaders and coaches, including one-time athletic director Andy Geiger, former assistant athletic director Archie Griffin, and former assistant wrestling coach and Congressman Jim Jordan. The lawsuit started with DeWine's term as governor and could come to an end in his final year in office. You can find the documentary on this case called Surviving Ohio State on HBO Max. Stay with us as I ask the governor to weigh in on his legacy. Governor Mike DeWine says the clock is ticking on his political life, but he is going into 2026 with drive, not a plan to coast to the finish line. Is it too early to think about how his administration will be viewed in the future? I asked him about that.
When they characterize your administration and your term in this office, what do you hope people say about the DeWine administration?
Well, I'm not very good at, philosophy or trying to say what will people say about me. I mean, my job is to do the best I can every single day. I guess if I had to pick one thing, I hope that people will say he was doing things every day to try to live up to what he said, and that is that our goal is for every child to be able to live up to their full God-given potential and every adult to be able to do that as well. It seems to me that's the most important thing we can do every day.
Thank you for your time, Governor.
Good to be with you, Colleen. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us for this conversation with Governor Mike DeWine. Next week, we'll have a look back and a look ahead on Sunday Briefing.